welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast, the only podcast that is perfectly balanced as all things should be. I am your host, Max Mosier, here to host episode 72. We are grateful you are here wherever you're listening, however you're listening. Thanks for making us part of your weekday or month. With me today is one other Infinity Bro. It's Infinity Bro Mark. Mark, how you doing?
I'm doing great. My name is Mark Jones, and I'm the advocate for Captain America, John Walker. How is everyone going?
Was that the bit that you were like trying to have before?
Yep, they just came to me as I did
That's
this.
amazing.
Yep.
So like right before we recorded, Mark was like, I got something I want to say, so just, I don't know. And he's like, give me a minute, I need to think of it. And I was like, all right. And then he's like, I can't think of it. And here we are. You're the advocate for John Walker. Mark, I would like to tell you you're full of crap right out the gate.
I know I made a post on Twitter on April Fool's Day, but I'm doubling down. You people need to respect the new Captain America.
Oh my gosh.
All of you who already have given him so much gruff, unneeded gruff, because you were indoctrinated by the weirdo Steve Rogers, and now you're given a true patriot who cares about America and wouldn't go against America and stuff.
Well, if this is any sign of how this show's going to go, we are in for a train wreck.
Someone's got to be Mephisto's advocate for the new Captain America.
Someone has to be Mephisto's advocate. Well, he's Mark Jones. I'm Max Mosier. Welcome to the Infinity Bros podcast. As I said at the top of the show, I am your host. You can check us out at theinfinitybros.com, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, Twitch, Discord, and TikTok. We got a jam-packed show today. Mark talked about it. We're talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 3. We are going to talk a little John Walker. I'm sure him and I will get into heated debates if that's really what he thinks. I hope it's just a bit, but we'll see. You never know, though, with Mark. We got an iTunes review we got to get to. We're going to talk about Invincible as well. I've heard some people on the fence about this show, Mark, on whether this is something they should invest their time in. There's a lot of great content coming out right now. We're going to kind of give you a non-spoiler review, talk about some spoiler things as well that we think you should know about. And we'll just break that show down. And we're going to break down Falcon and Winter Soldier we talked about and end the show with our top 5 Falcon and Winter Soldier moments from episode 3. Mark, there's been a lot of content this week. Have you been able to like jam pack it in throughout the week, or have you been able to space it out throughout the week, or has it been jam packed in like 2 days, excuse me? Yeah,
it's been jam packed in like 2 days. You know, if you're new to the show or haven't listened a little bit, I've been in the process of, yes, I do not have as much free time to watch all the content I want to watch. But yeah, I watched 3 episodes of Invincible today, the last 3, and then also was able to watch the new episode of Falcon and Winter Soldier twice a day. I watched once by myself, and then when my wife came back from an interview, we watched it together. So, yes.
We did the same thing, Mark. That's interesting. I rewatched it with my wife as well today, and some people are like, how do you have that much time, Mark and Max, to do that? I'm like, well, first of all, why don't you have a calendar and a planner and get up early? That's the first answer I'd have for you.
Max and I are double teaming on get a planner, people.
Oh, for sure.
Plan your days out.
Big planner guys up here.
Don't shoot from the hip.
Do not shoot from the hip. It will not work. You don't get the content out or done or seen. Yeah, I'm with you, Mark. I mean, watching this twice gives me a lot of different perspective. I've read already, and we're recording a Friday night at 7:45. So this bad boy's only been out for like 20 hours, and I've already seen a lot of reviews basically kind of trashing this episode in some ways. Others are praising some things, but I haven't seen a lot of people are calling this the weakest episode. I'm interested to hear what you think about it later, and I have thoughts to that.
I know for the show, like since we've been doing the recording of the Infinity Bros, you always get like to go see what people saying online, but you did that before. But like to me, I live in total bliss of what people think about if it's good or bad. I just go watch it, and if I love it, I love it. So like I always find it fascinating. Like when you say like, oh, people are crapping on it, I'm thinking like, on what? This episode
we'll talk more about that later. But I'm the kind of guy that I like to read the reviews I like to read non-spoiler reviews before. I really, really enjoy reading spoiler reviews after, just to kind of relive the show and hear others' thoughts. And I was pretty floored with some of the reviews I was listening to and watching today. And yeah, so we got a jam-packed show, but we want to get to our iTunes review first. If you're not familiar with us, we'd love it if you leave an iTunes review for us. The other thing is this, and we want to drop this promo real quick while we're here. Yeah, we're promoting something. Suck it up. Okay. Couple things here. Podchaser is doing a special right now. If you go and review any podcast on podchaser.com, just type in podchaser.com. There's a link in the show notes as well. Don't worry, just click that button. You can go leave a review for us, and 25 cents will be donated to Meals on Wheels. You don't have to do anything after that. You just got to leave a review. We get to have a review. It's great, but also you're helping out a great cause with Meals on Wheels. So please, 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 even if you've left us a review before there, go leave another one or create another account and leave one. Anything to help them out would be tremendous. So please make sure you do that. But also leave us an iTunes review because we'll read it on the show. And we really appreciate the feedback we've gotten. We've got some great fans in the Infinity Bros universe, and we want to make sure that we honor you guys. And this one comes from one of our big spitballing there, but a dear friend of the show, Joe Lujan, left a 5-star review. It says, great show. He says, I've been listening for a couple of months now. Fantastic show. I'm always happy when I see there is a new episode up. Sometimes I'm even texting Max to see when it goes up. He's not wrong. He's texting me about that. Great job, guys. Keep up the great work. Joey, we love the review. I would love it if you go back and just figure out some punctuation things. I'm kidding, Joey. I'm kidding. Very big run-on sentence vibes here, Mark. But a 5-star review, again, a very nice review of our podcast, Mark.
Love the review. I always think it's flattering, I think, for us. Like, just go out of your way to give, take time out of your day to write a review. I mean, yeah, it might be 10 seconds, it might be a minute, but still, it means a lot.
It does. Joe, thanks so much. We appreciate it. And here's something else we want you to be aware of. We talked about the Podchaser promo. Now we're going to do an iTunes promo. And Podchaser too. You leave us a review starting now after this podcast. You're going to screenshot that review, and you're going to either DM the Infinity Bros account or you can DM one of the Infinity Bros themselves. You are going to get entered in a special drawing we're having for an Infinity Gauntlet. We're giving away a $100 Infinity Gauntlet signed by all the Infinity Bros. That Infinity Gauntlet will be yours. First 100 people to leave a review starting today. So it's Friday, April 2nd. From here on out, any review we get as of today, we will count in that drawing. So Joey, you are now officially entered into that. Don't worry about screenshotting us. But what you're going to do is leave the review, screenshot it, DM it to us at theinfinitybros@gmail.com or DM us on one of our social media platforms, and you will be entered for that. Make sure you do it. Don't miss out on it. It's a free review for a chance to win a super duper sweet.
And then with that, what's the timeline? We're doing the first 100 and then...
Yeah, I think we'll do the first 100. So we'll do when we hit 150 reviews because we're at 45 right now.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool beans.
So yeah. So about 100, 105, 100. No, 44. I'm sorry.
Can I enter?
Mark, you cannot enter. You're actually going to be signing the gauntlet.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with having something that, you've signed in your house, whatever.
What do you own that's signed in your house?
Don't worry about it.
Now I'm worried about it. Thanks, Joey. We appreciate the review. Joey's more than people know. Remarkable guy. Get to know him if you know him. So let's dive into Invincible now. Mark, let's have some discussion on Invincible. How many episodes were you able to check out of this?
All of them.
All 4 episodes. All as of today.
Yeah, I watched 3 of them today and then watched 1, the first episode a few days ago.
So you only watched episode 1 a couple days ago? You didn't continue after that?
No, I just said I watched 3 today, like 2, 3, and 4 today. And I watched episode 1 a few days ago. So I've watched all the episodes.
That just shocks me knowing what I know about episode 1. But let me read the IMDb and share some information about this.
I watched episode 1 pretty late, so I couldn't.
That's fair. I'm no judgment. I'm more shocked knowing you. I'm interested to hear what you think. This is based on the comic book, an adult animated series based on the Skybound Image comic about a teenager whose father is the most powerful superhero on the planet. It stars Stephen Yeun as Mark Grayson, Sandra Oh, and J.K. Simmons as his parents Debbie and Nolan, Zazie Beetz, Gray Griffin, Andrew Rannells, Kevin Michael Richardson, Walton Goggins, Jillian Jacobs, Jason Mantzoukas, Chris Dianopoulos, Zachary Quinto, Melise, Mark Hamill, Seth Rogen, Carrie Payton, Max Burkholder, Ross Miskane, Michael Dorn, Mahershala Ali, John Hamm, and Mae Whitman are just a few. There are more on this list, but this is a jam-packed show in terms of actors, Mark. When you found this out, what were your thoughts on that?
I have no thoughts on that. I thought it was insane. I guess that is my thought.
Well, I guess my first thought was, is this because of COVID that these guys and gals were able to make time for this? Was Kirkman, the creator and director and writer?
It's an animated show, so they would have had to probably do voice recording, years ago, I would imagine, right? Because it's not like you can just voice record and then animate everything within a year. That's not how it works. So I imagine they recorded first, and then the animation took about a year, and then they put these out.
So you think they work that way, huh? Yeah, I don't know.
Just listening to Fat Man Beyond with Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin. Kevin Smith talks about his Masters of the Universe show that's going to be on Netflix. How all the voice acting stuff.
Right.
And then I was like, oh yeah, I'll be out next year. And Netflix said they'd be like, well, no, because we still have to animate the whole show, which is going to probably take a year.
Invincible was actually originally optioned by Universal Pictures in 2017 as a feature film with Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg developing it. But now Amazon's picked up as a series. So according to Kirkman, who is the creator and director of this and also The Walking Dead, that's why there's a lot of Walking Dead crossover, he has said, according to you on a Fat Man Beyond episode...
Yeah, if I'm remembering that right, he said that they're also, Amazon is, I believe this, I don't know if it's out there, he just like Freudian slipped it when talking, said that, they're also doing a live action as well. That's why Seth Rogen's attached to this one.
Man, I don't even know who I'd want in this role for a live action. This is the first time you talked about it.
I think it'd be hilarious.
I've heard of that.
It'd be hilarious if they just took all the voice actors and just put them into their roles and like CGI'd if they're a little older for some of the characters. I think that'd be hilarious.
Yeah, Kevin Michael Richardson would probably struggle in that role, but everybody else would.
Make it work.
This is a truly remarkable cast, and I know very little to nothing about this comic series. How much do you know, Mark?
Nothing. I first heard about the show being on Amazon on that Kirkman episode of Fat Man Beyond. So
I saw a trailer, I think 6 to 8 months ago, and I believed I talked about it on our show. I just like, hey, I saw this trailer. This looks good. I probably gave it like a 4 or 5 out of 6. This show is pretty remarkable to me, just in a lot of ways, and we'll talk about it. We're going to talk about our non-spoiler reviews of this show first for those that are on the fence about watching it, have questions, or just want to know our thoughts without having spoilers. So we want to make sure that you're familiar with our rating system and how we rate things here. So we're going to go ahead and put that bumper right here.
Here on the Infinity Bros podcast, everything is ranked from a 0 to 6 point scale. 0 meaning horrible, and 6 meaning absolutely excellent. If all of the Infinity Bros rank something a 6, it gets an Infinity Step.
Mark, what are your non-spoiler thoughts of this? And you've watched all 4 episodes, and this is a very tough show for me to talk about without spoiling. So I maybe we got to just keep it brief for those that are on the fence. But I know there are people that haven't watched it yet, and there are some people, for example, you and I were talking about this pre-show, how The Boys, for example, is an air quotes adult comic book show.
Yep.
Do you consider it in the same vein as that? Do you consider it lighter? Where are you kind of looking at it with this show compared to that show and Umbrella Academy and some of these others, and even Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision right now, who are obviously on Disney Plus? Like, how do you look at this show, and what's your recommendation after watching these 4 episodes?
Well, I guess after these 4 episodes, where I tied it to The Boys, it's not like, I'd say it's more of the violent or more so than it being adult themed in a sense, if that makes sense without saying, like, it's not like sexuality in the show, so it's just more graphic and violent, probably truer to the comic book. But then you get like this, there's an established group of heroes, and then there's a younger version of heroes, and the whole thing, I don't think this is really a spoiler because I think it was in the trailer, Omni-Man's son, when he's goes through puberty. So he's just learning his powers. So that's kind of the first 4 episodes is him learning his powers and then also taking responsibility and validation from his father in a sense. And then also he's in high school too. So it's there's that aspect where he's also a teenage boy at the same time. So he still has high school things he wants to do. So I mean, I give it a 6 out of 6. So
were you annoyed by the high school stuff?
no.
Because typically with these kinds of shows with high school stuff, it's love triangles, some drama, some bullying, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. For me, I would say some of those tropes are hit right on the head right out the gate in episode 1.
Oh yeah.
That's not really a spoiler. That's just like thoughts in general.
But I think that's supposed to give that person the character more depth in that. Yeah, during the day he's just a high school kid, so you're supposed to like just keep remembering that. But also he's trying to, save the world or fight crime or, get himself in very dangerous situations.
I'm not. This doesn't necessarily affect my rating. It's just my thoughts are the one thing that feels as if it's breaking into all the other aspects of this show is the high school environment. But we'll talk about that more in the spoiler part of our review. My review of this show is this. This show absolutely floored me in every way possible. Very similar to The Boys in the sense of how it just floored me right out the gate. This is much more tame than The Boys. The Boys is about as high as you can get in regards to an R rating. And they don't hold back in that show. I heard that this was an R-rated adult show, and I was a little nervous because I was like, man, that's already hard for me with The Boys. It feels like a tough... For me, it feels like I have to hold my breath sometimes watching The Boys. I do not feel that way. I really, aside from a couple of, as you referenced, violent scenes, I really don't see the R rating in this show yet. Now, maybe that's going to change as this goes along, and certain people who have read all the comics will say that there's a lot that still has to happen that's pretty major. So I'm just going to hang my hat on that it'll get to that point, but it's nowhere near The Boys. I would argue this is more on the level of Umbrella Academy, which is why I referenced it when I asked you earlier.
I mean, that's I went Umbrella Academy show. I referred it more to like One Punch Man.
Yeah.
Where it's like very graphic fight scenes more so than with like adult themed, like, commentary or whatever you want to call it, where it's not, it's definitely not a kid's show, but I don't think it's, I would say even Umbrella Academy's more tame than this show.
I think like there could have been more sex stuff in this. There
like
could have been more swearing.
You wanted more sex stuff?
No. I'm saying, well, now you're.
There could have been.
I don't appreciate.
Give
that.
me Spider-Man.
I really just was kind of I was preparing for that, Mark. I'll put it that way. And I think The Boys trained me to think that way. The Boys trained me to know, hey, nothing's off the table now. In The Boys, there might be somebody who's sexually attracted to a dolphin, right? Like that's just that's what that show is. What?
No, yeah. I agree with you, man.
And it's Amazon, so I'm like, all right. And I've never read the comics, so I think that was the reason I was so like, all right, here we go. I'm gonna watch it, but I'm nervous. 6 out of 6 this right out the gate. I cannot believe how great this. If you're a fan at all of Justice League or Avengers stuff, this is a must watch. And yeah, you don't watch it around kids, but for those that are like, hey, is this family friendly? No, it's not. However, I don't think it's nearly as bad as The Boys. And yeah, from the graphic violence stuff, it's worse than Umbrella Academy. But from the sexuality stuff,
well, there's none.
There's none. There's little to nothing. And so there's nothing sexually. Now, in the rating, it says there's going to be sex stuff. So that leads me to think down the line there will be.
Maybe. But
they're 4 episodes in an 8 episode season. I haven't seen it yet.
Well, I mean, there's like innuendos, like when the son comes home and like you can't really, it's not like graphic hearing, but it's like, like playful between the mom and dad. Like, I wonder if they count that as like...
That's baloney because I just got done watching Cars with my 2-year-old son, and there's a scene where 2 cars drive up to the main character. This is a rated G movie, and they flash their lights at him.
Yeah, but it's a car. It's not a human being. That's how they rate stuff, Max. Grow up.
Whatever, dude. That's ridiculous. That's more of an innuendo.
Are you sexualizing a car, Max?
I'm not. Disney was.
Well... Maybe we shouldn't subscribe to Disney anymore.
Maybe we should just subscribe to Amazon. They're the safe players.
They don't hide behind cars.
We both give this a 6 out of 6. We recommend you go check this out. We're going to spoil some things. We're going to briefly talk about some spoilers, but we want to just go ahead and give you an opportunity. If you plan on watching this, I really, really recommend you don't know what happens in episode 1. I think it's a big hook for you. I know Mark had that air quote spoiled, but his argument, and he'll talk about this later, is it's the reason he watched the show. I did not have a clue this was coming, and it floored me. So we're going to go ahead and talk those spoilers here in a second. So this is your spoiler warning.
This is
Prepare yourself.
an Infinity Bros
Prepare yourself.
spoiler warning.
Mark, tell us about how you found out about the ending of episode 1 and how Omni-Man basically destroys the Guardians of the Globe.
Yeah, and I, listening to podcast Batman Beyond with Kevin Smith and Mark Medard, they had Kirkman on, and he's talking about this, and then he says that, yeah, he kills everyone. So I knew that going in, which, made me more excited to watch this, I was thinking Omni-Man was a bad guy. So I knew nothing about the show going in. So watching this, I'm like, okay, they're at the White House, because that's how it opens up, two bad guys trying to kill the president, and the group comes, saves the day. Omni-Man shows up, helps out a bit too. And Omni-Man's not a part of what is it called again? Guardians of the Globe?
Yes.
Not a part of it. And then, the whole episode goes on. We, see the kid, and, he finally gets his powers, blah, blah, blah. More stuff happens. Just detail stuff. And then the most important part of episode 1 is at the end. Literally, they go to, the home base for the Guardians of the Globe. They're all called there for something. And we don't know why they're being called. And they all get there and who called us? And then Omni-Man shows up and starts, fighting them and starts killing them off one by one. And almost dies too, but he kills all 7 of them. And and then also is kind of defeated.
And it's graphic, Mark.
Oh,
I mean, I don't even think him killing them is the part that makes you want to come back to this show.
It's the way he killed them.
The way that this show okey-doked us as an audience was we spent a really good chunk of time in that episode with these characters, right?
So we kind of got to know them. We get we get a little in context of their story to give them more character, and then you just kill them all.
Yeah, and I mean we got an intimate scene with this version of the Flash.
Yeah, Red, I think is what they call him.
Yeah, and this is just great storytelling. I know years ago, and I'm making another Lost reference, people. I'm sorry if you've listened to the show before. But this was originally a plan that Lost had, was in their pilot episode to kill the main character, but they didn't end up doing it. But there have been some shows that have tried to do this and not succeeded, it feels like. This was a great move by Kirkman and I mean, I am hooked on this show after one episode, Mark. No question in my mind, because of the severity of this scene. I'm not the biggest horror fan, to be frank. And by not the biggest, I mean, I'm not a horror fan at all. I know you delve more into that genre than I do. But I don't know how this scene could exist and have the shock value it had without all of the violence it had. Don't you?
Well, I think it just, the way he killed some of them just seems so personal, not personable. So personal, because just with their version of the Flash, he basically crushes the dude's skull while the dude's continually to punch him in the Omni-Man in the chest at super speed, and you can see his hands are even breaking. So each punch is his hands are getting mushed, and then it's crazy.
It blew my mind. I mean it was, haven't been that shocked in a long time. And
then the rest of the next, I don't know if it happens in that episode or it's in the beginning of the next, or at the end of that episode or the beginning of the next, where it's we find out there's a government agency that kind of secretly protects them in a sense, medically, and it does the investigation, and they think that someone tried to attack them and Omni-Man still lived. So I just also that aspect of it too, where the next 3 episodes is this agency trying to figure out who killed why am I blanking again? The Guardians of the Globe.
The Guardians of the Globe, yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's interesting too. Walton Goggins, just an absolute killer casting for Cecil, right?
Yep. And Cecil's just the head of this agency.
Perfect role. Yeah. I mean, he's just dynamite. Jillian Jacobs is dynamite. We're not going to break too much of this down because, to be honest, I think if you're still listening, you've either watched it or I don't know if we know enough yet about what we're watching, to be honest, Mark, to talk about it. I
say go watch it and join the discussion.
I do not want to read a single one of these comic books anymore until this is done, because I don't know how Amazon makes it another 2 weeks without renewing it for a second season, Mark.
It's a compelling story because we're at the point where it's just like there was this demon investigator who's like I'm blanking on the DC character's name. Forgive me. But basically is like actually from hell, a demon who escaped hell.
Hellboy?
Not Hellboy, the DC version. Oh my gosh. I'm like on the verge of pronouncing it. He always rhymes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he's in Justice League Dark, and now I'm just like, I feel... Anyways, moving on from that. Robbie's yelling
Damien
at right now.
Darkblood is the character you're talking about.
Yes. Where it's just like he's... he has a psychic ability, basically, and he's trying to piece it together, and he kind of gets to the point where he's like, this, like, Omni-Man's the killer. And Cecil basically produces a seance to send him back to hell because he's like, we gotta keep this quiet. I thought that was insane. Like, who thinks of that stuff?
You're not going to find anything like this out there. I know there's a lot of superhero shows and movies going around, but this is really, really special and unique.
And I think that's what makes it special. It's not a DC or Marvel like property. I mean, yeah, you probably watch be like, oh, they're ripping off this character. And it's like, who cares? It's like it's set in a different world with different rules, and that's I think what makes stuff like this, when it's treated right, just like The Boys or Umbrella Academy, makes it special in its own thing.
And it's the genre that people want right now. That's just suck it up. That's what's that. And if you're listening to our show anyway, like you're listening because of the genre. Let's be honest with yourselves, with ourselves here. So like I think the cast is great. Jason Mantzoukas, dynamite as Rex Explode. We can't give him enough praise. Zazie Beetz is just absolutely crushing it as Amber Bennett. J.K. Simmons as Omni-Man. You can't get a better casting than that, in my opinion. Stephen Yeun is Mark Grayson. I believe it's a teenage kid. Stephen Yeun is absolutely doing a remarkable job as this as well. Sandra Oh as Debbie Grayson. She's obviously from the Grey's Anatomy series. I just have been very, very impressed with not only the casting choices in this show, but also the way that they've stylized it similar to the comics. I've actually looked up pictures in the comics of this show, and I've been very much impressed with. It looks pretty much beat for beat like what episodes, Mark. I've been not only impressed, I've been like, I feel full after watching these episodes.
Right? And like, and then like episode 4, there's like 4 villains, potential new villains that are like kind of set up. So it's like, where are they going with this? You basically like fed me 4 different things I have to worry about going forward with this like young group of heroes.
Yeah, and Mark is the main hero, ironically, is his name. And that might be the one thing that really deters me from loving this show. But no, I've really enjoyed this. This is unique. I know that sounds weird to say in this environment of superheroes being out there, but this is completely unique and different. And I think it's going to go ways that I'm not expecting. And from my understanding of this run with Invincible from people I trust, this is a very, very special storyline. So I'm excited for it. So we're not even going to pontificate of what we think it'll be, because technically we could go read about it. So it kind of doesn't make sense to do that.
Perfect segue to, things we might think will be Falcon Winter Soldier.
For sure.
Gave us a secret villain that now we can hypothesize that it's Mephisto again. So I'm glad Disney's given us that.
Yeah, for sure. But you can check this out on Amazon Plus. Is Amazon Video? That's what it's called. Amazon Video. Go check this out. This is Invincible. Kirkman has done it again. If you're a Walking Dead fan, this is a must watch. If you're a superhero fan, this is a must watch. 6 out of 6 from both of us. We'll make sure we check it out. So let's dive into Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Mark. Again, this is going to be another spoiler review, so just so you know, as we do pretty much every week, and probably the reason you're here is because we've been breaking this stuff down episode for episode. And Mark, if for those that this might be their first time listening to our show, can you remind them what your ratings have been of the previous 2 episodes?
I've been in the 5.5 range. Yeah, I think that's where I was with these episodes.
Yeah, I've been at a solid 5 both times, and I've been impressed with how they have been doing this show. The thing that I've said up to this point that I'll just echo again today, and maybe you can hop in and chime in if you have a thought on this, Mark, is I've really appreciated the pacing of this show in comparison to WandaVision. And I've appreciated how they've been making things that would potentially take a long time to get done in a snap.
Yeah, and I think I may have said this when we were talking about WandaVision, where I just feel like that was WandaVision's point, was supposed to be this long, drawn-out thing, where what we were going to get and what we are getting with Falcon and Winter Soldier is it's action. There's no digging deep. We're just like, we're giving it to you. And I think, yeah, it's a change of pace. And I think that's what they had to do. They couldn't have just done another long drawn out series, because then you just get bored of that. It's like, okay, it's the same formula they're using, where it's like, this is their action show. So that's what we're getting.
Yeah, you could listen to some of our WandaVision reviews. We've talked about it ad nauseum. I'm not going to bring it up anymore, but I was not impressed with the pacing of that show. I'll leave it at that. So, Mark, real quick, talk about this episode, broad strokes, before we dive into the beat by beat parts of the show. What's your rating of it, and what are your thoughts as we head into episode 4 next week?
This is a 6 out of 6 episode for me. That's how I feel about this episode. We get more Captain America, John Walker. He's great. Mason stuff. I feel like we got him finally being like, okay, we need to either track down Bucky and Sam and like buddies with them, or just hide in the back and then take credit once they figure it all out. That's what I feel like is going down with this episode. We get Bucky and Sam teaming up with Zemo, which I like that sequence. Sharon Carter comes back. They're trying to track down who has created the new serum. And then we get a little more, how would you say, like more character development and humanizing of the Flag Smashers.
Yeah, you're hitting a lot of the beats we're going to talk about too.
Well, broad strokes, bro.
Broad strokes, I feel you. No, I this is a 6 out of 6 for me as well. I just got done reading 2 reviews, Mark, before this show, ripping this show apart for this episode, saying this is a slow episode, this is all exposition. And while there is exposition being articulated in this, there are some really major things happening in this episode, in particular in regards to the connection with the X-Men.
Because you saw an X symbol that looked like the X-Men symbol. That's where you're pulling from.
I'll talk about that.
Should I take that down from my board?
No, I know you're playing Mephisto's advocate, and I'm all in with.
Because I saw that. I know what you're talking about. Or
there's other stuff too.
Yeah, I know the other stuff. But like, I saw that piece, and I was like, okay, Marvel, like, screw you. It's Mephisto doing this to us. So like, Yeah.
I almost wonder if Marvel just like goes back and adds more after we watched Falcon and Winter Soldier. I mean, after we watched WandaVision, and just like, yeah, let's make it a little worse. Let's make it a little worse on him. No, I agree with you. I think 6 out of 6. This actually is my favorite episode so far. And there's a couple reasons this is my favorite. One, I cannot believe how fantastic Baron Zemo coming back is.
Oh, right.
And we're going to talk about him as a character. This really, 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 Daniel Bruhl had to come back. This was such a great move by Marvel to get him to come back. Sharon Carter, played by Emily Van Camp, once again is back in this just remarkable role. I love how they've changed both of these characters to fit this world now. But I really, really buy where they're at. I think, and we're going to talk about both these characters, I just really, really appreciate how this show right now is just slowly turning up the notch every single episode in the intensity, pacing, and storytelling. I feel like it's going to crescendo in the next probably hour and a half of show here. And we're in for a really big treat on the back end of episode 5 and 6, I feel like. And I know the creators have really been touting that episode 5 is the big episode. I also am holding my breath because of what Paul Bettany, WandaVision. But again, I'm with you, Mark. 6 out of 6. This is pretty great. I don't know where this is going either. And that's my favorite part about these Disney Plus shows is I have no idea where these are going. Mark, what did you think of the Global Repatriation Council promo on the front end and the propaganda we're getting of this rebuild, restore, what was it 3 R's?
Restore, rebuild,
reset, restore, rebuild.
Reset, yeah.
That's what What do you think of this promo, and what are you thinking of just seeing the GRC using Captain America as its own business icon to take things down?
I think it tries to set it like I said, it's propaganda to look good, and then we get a little sneak peek in the episode where it's like the what's her name, the redhead, I'm forgetting her. I always forget her name. Anyways,
Carly Morgenthau.
Yeah, she says to like the people that the country they're in this episode, you had 6 months supplies of this stuff or something like that, and you weren't giving it to the people who need it. So it's like they're showing the world that they're this peacekeeping stuff, and like after that promo, we see a bunch of people coming out with Captain America with guns. So it's like, are they really like a peaceful organization, or is it like that's their facade to the world that sees them, and what they really are is not so good? I don't know.
Where the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been its best, in my opinion, with these characters, so Captain America's subgroup, Captain America, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Agent 13, Zemo, blah, 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 blah. Where this universe has been at its best is speaking on political things without beating it over my head. This episode is a great example of how you do that efficiently. I had some qualms with how they did some things last episode. I understood the choices they made, but I had some qualms with some of the things they did and the way they beat it over my head. Not saying I agree or disagree with it. I'm saying you're forcing it down my throat versus showing it to me and letting me learn and process it. I really feel like this is a very unique way of doing it on the front end again, and this is what I appreciate on Marvel. And I agree with you, Mark. This makes me question a lot of things, and man, just like Winter Soldier was such a timely movie at the time. All the stuff with Snowden had come out about the information that the government in the United States and other governments were tracking people with. And I just think it's, again, another great example of talking about things that are public without referencing them directly. And I really think this is another win for this show to go down this route and show two sides of these governments and two sides of how they do things, and really looking at it through the lens of Sam has been a joy for me. I've really enjoyed that. I may not like fully like buy into some ways of interpretation or things, but I respect the storytelling and I respect the direction they've chosen. I respect the boldness at which this show takes swings. So, but John Walker and Battlestar engage the German who is housing Morgenthau. He spits on him, and John Walker is just pretty doggone close to losing all of his Ishmark. Do we think we're going to get a Berserker John Walker by the end of this? Like, how does this guy in Battlestar's story climax here? You kind of referenced it in your review, but like, where do you even think this goes? Because this kind of just feels like the odd man out right now in the story.
For sure. Like, they're one step behind, or wait, no, they'd be like 2 steps behind, I believe, with what Sam and Bucky are doing.
Well, why not 3, Mark? Why not 4? Why not 5?
Well, okay, I don't know what you want. Do you want
how
me to
many
shove numbers
steps
on
do
your
you
throat?
want them to be behind?
Like,
That's what I want.
But with this scene in particular, I think we get that Captain America, the Captain America, is, I think, getting frustrated.
Don't call him the Captain America. His name's John Walker, and he's U.S.
Captain America.
Agent. He's not the Captain. Don't call him the Captain America. He's not Captain America.
He is the Captain America. Is there another Captain America
version? He's a knockoff.
Is there another Captain America currently?
Yeah, his name's Sam. Sam Wilson.
Sam Wilson gave up the shield because he's a punk and doesn't deserve it right now because he's making Bucky sad. So I don't like when Bucky's sad. So the Captain America,
making Bucky sad, so he doesn't deserve it. All right, so does this? Have you confirmed that you're a Bucky stan? Is that what we're confirming here? Are you one of those teenage girls that follows Sebastian Stan accounts on TikTok? Is that what we're hearing here?
Does Sebastian Stan have a TikTok?
No, like the Stan accounts where it's like, just videos of Sebastian Stan doing, goofy things with music, with background music that's super weird.
Do you follow stuff like that?
No, I was asking you. Well, I was explaining what the concept of a Stan account is.
Well, apparently you had to do that, and no, I don't.
I work with teenagers. This is how I know these things. I'm hippin' with it, as the kids say.
Hippin' with it? That's coming back?
Hip and with it.
Okay, no, but back to Captain America and Battlestar.
Yeah, knock off Captain America, but go ahead.
No, it's actually the Captain America because America's announced him as the Captain America, and he has his own toys. Does Steve Rogers have his own toys as Captain America? Probably not. Now I'm lost my train of thought because I'm so all in on Captain America right now.
Ridiculously stupid. That's why.
I know. I'm going to stand up for Captain America until he does something bad.
Stop acting like he's Captain America.
Well, he is Captain America. He literally has the Captain America shield and has an A on his body armor. And
he has a star that has a bolded A in it. It's not even a full A. It's just a knockoff star.
Well, he has the shield.
It's a cheap looking suit too. The suit looks like crap.
Oh, God, not just touching this, like hearing reports this week where Wyatt Russell wanted the original Captain America suit that he wore. How mad do you think people would be if he actually wore the original suit?
Oh my gosh, that would be sacrilegious to people.
I would have loved it. I would have been all in on that.
Yeah, it would have been a great troll job. But do you think they used up all their troll tokens on Ralph Boner, and that's why they couldn't give him the original?
Feige's like, we're doing this to the people. We can't put him in the regular suit.
I'm sorry, Wyatt. We're doing this because Kurt was in one of our movies and he asked us a favor.
Yeah,
and we just we had to fill a quota, and we're gonna kill you anyway in episode 5.
I don't think they're going to kill him. I honestly don't believe. I think Battlestar gets killed.
You said that last week, and I think that's a very, very fair thing.
Because I think we'll get, there'll be the change into the shields, and I think, we'll probably get a humanizing moment for John Walker when he becomes John Walker and no longer is Captain America and becomes U.S. agent.
He was never Captain America, so you don't have to worry about that. He is
Captain America.
No, you don't have to worry like he's not Captain America. Like, it's not him.
When the credits roll, does it say John Walker or Captain America?
It says Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Fair enough. Moving on. Okay, now that we're in the weeds and you brought something up, I got to bring them.
Go for it.
My beautiful wife, Kelly, showed me a TikTok where this person, I'm sorry, if you happen to be listening to this and you made this TikTok, I'm sorry, I don't remember the person I saw this TikTok. This person was talking about how the reason why this show is called Falcon and Winter Soldier is this is the last time this whole series, the last time we'll be referencing them as the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that they'll become their new hero names after the show is done.
I 90% subscribe to that right now as of episode 3.
I honestly believe we'll probably get to the end of this and Sam will, take the shield back and become Captain America, and Bucky will probably become White Wolf, right?
And I think given everything that happened with Boseman passing away, Shuri may need just a strong side character. And Feige might look at this and go, okay, we really want White Wolf to be that guy to walk her through how to do this. And
I think when we come to it in this episode, there might be some validity into that statement.
Yes, we'll talk about that at the end. And the end of this episode is the reason I think that. And if you're listening to this, the spoilers are coming, so we're not going to apologize for that. No, I think but I'd like to stay on track with it just for the sake of the listeners. I'm with you on the John Walker Battlestar stuff. I know there is a line where John Walker gets paralyzed. I think that could be a real possibility here.
And with that, okay, back to that scene where he gets frustrated. I think that's where we're getting, where he's finally he's like, I just want damn respect. I think he is stressed out. He thinks wearing this Captain America suit that makes him more important, and he has his buddy Battlestar that's all trusting in him. And I think we're kind of gonna get an Captain America where he's just willing to kind of go off grid and break the rules to track down the Flag Smashers. So he might become dangerous down the road.
Did you appreciate how quick it was Bucky getting Zemo out of prison?
Oh, I loved it. I was so happy because I was like, they're gonna find a way to break him out. And I'm glad they didn't do this whole...
I thought this wasn't gonna happen to the end of the episode.
Yeah, and that's what I thought. I was like, initially I was like, this better not be the whole episode is them breaking him out. And I loved how they Ant-Man this, where it was just him telling a story and the whole breakout scene was happening. And then by that time he was done telling the story, Zemo's in their meetup location.
Zemo's the best part of this episode by a mile. I would argue right now he's the best part of the series. I absolutely loved Daniel Bruhl's portrayal of Zemo in this episode. I think this, from the evil entrance to the way he's escaping and his intelligence level, he's one of the smartest people in this universe. It's clear, at least on this planet. Forgive me. I love every engagement he has with them. He really is the perfect third person with Sam and Bucky. It just feels like the first 3 episodes have been building to this trio being together. And these next 3 episodes, we're going to get to watch it happen. And we all know that Zemo's going to betray them.
He's got to.
He's going to. There's no question.
Or just kind of like how this episode happened, where there's a moment where he kind of just walks away. And I was like, okay, this is where he goes off and does his own thing. But that wasn't the case. Because I think the reason why
he did it twice.
Yeah. The reason why they can trust him is because this dude, doesn't want there to be super soldiers.
Yeah.
So
his code, as Bucky said, is really law. And what did you think of them? I don't think they shifted his character, but did you like the explanation for him being a Baron? Like, he's got fancy cars, he's got a butler in a plane, real Batman vibes here.
Yeah, that's what I was really shocked. I'm sure it's in the comic books with him, but I was like, oh yeah, isn't he supposed to be rich? And of course he would still, but it just seemed so odd that he's supposed to be in prison, but he would have still quick access to get his butler and a plane to them.
Well, and the way they even explained Hydra, how he's like, hey, I was hunting down Hydra before you guys destroyed my city.
And that's another nuts thing. So it's there's a whole backstory with him where he was like you said, hunting down Hydra and killing and messing up their whole thing.
What are the odds that we're getting a Daniel Bruhl show down the line with him? There's a chance we might get a show with him.
I mean, maybe, but do we want? Does the masses
season,
want that?
I think after this season and in a good Thunderbolt movie, they might.
Maybe.
I love the direction of Zemo. I love even how he's cultured, how the discussion of him talking with Sam and Bucky about Marvin Gaye and how Bucky's like, I like 40s music, and Sam's like, dude, Marvin Gaye is good. Just Zemo pops and he goes, it really just encompasses the African-American experience. It's just you are such a dick, but doggone it, you're funny.
And Sam's like, there's a lot I have issue with that, but he's right.
I just loved it. And I've got more to say about Zemo.
Oh, and that's the other thing we get from that scene when they're in the plane, in the jet, his private jet, is he's must be really good with sleight of hand because he stole the little book of Bucky's.
Yeah.
And we find out that was Captain America's little book.
Yeah, dude.
I mean,
so
my bad.
Many just little
Steve
revelations.
Steve Rogers' book. I don't want to get people confused with Steve Rogers and Captain America. I'm sorry.
You're so full of crap, Mark. Honest to God.
Maybe.
But we get Madripoor. This is a big. So for those that don't know, this is a very, very big it is a small island in Southeast Asia, just like Singapore. And we actually get an X-Men character in this show with Selby, the female who Zemo said is the contact. She is an X-Men character in the comics who has the ability to speak to computers, which I think was the hint of put your phone on speakerphone so we can all hear it. And
yep.
That was just a nice little Easter egg. But this is where Wolverine fought the Silver Samurai in the comics, Mark. This is where Wolverine has fought the Smiling Tiger, which is obviously a sweet Easter egg with what an obscure Easter egg too, by the way, with Sam of that. There has to be a story behind that picture of him in that suit, right? That had to have been at some party that he was at. And Marvel's like, oh, you got to wear that again. We got to make fun of you with this.
Yeah. Probably.
This is a really, really big deal that this is in it, and it's going to go under the radar because of a lot of other things. In particular, the end of this episode, I think the masses are going to care what happened more about what happened at the end of this episode with Zemo, but Madripoor being in this show, this is essentially a big step towards the X-Men, and it just was such an offhand way of doing it that I appreciated, and it wasn't big and gigantic like we thought in WandaVision.
Do you think she was in Westview 6 months ago?
No.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Because, that's where all the X-Men are going to get their powers, is if you live in Westview for 3 days after or 6 weeks after the blip. Or 3 weeks after the blip. Okay.
And we still don't know who the Power Broker is, even though Power Broker is the title of this episode.
It's either Mephisto, it's Zemo still pulling the strings. It is. I'm actually leaning. It might be Sharon Carter.
Dude, we're on the same page on this. I think it might be Sharon Carter too.
This is where I it led me. This is where when I watched it the second time, I noticed.
Let's talk about it. Go. Yeah.
Okay. So when they talk to the lady first, and
Selby.
they go to the Selby. My bad. Yeah. Thank you. And they go to the container ship or barge where they're moving containers and where the person
where an eagle is. Yep.
Oh, that was a great sequence too. It's just hey, I was working on this for the CIA. That was another thing. He was working on building the serum, and not just like a serum you have to be like placed in a machine or like turns your weird colors or makes you huge. Like literally something that like a simple serum. Anyways, I think that was
we'll talk about that.
Another thing.
There's a lot to talk about with that. Yeah,
but they get there and she says we got to hurry up, and like she like when they walk in there, she walks off and is like on the phone. I think she called the bounty hunters. I think she's the one who
power broker. This power broker thing is a huge part of this show right now,
and that's another big revelation. Is like I never thought about that. I just thought like she get the same treatment like Bucky and Sam and all of them. No, she's literally been on the run since Civil War. So if she didn't get blipped, she's been on the run for 9 years.
Yeah, 9 years. I mean, that's a long time. And so yeah, Nat, so you're talking about Sharon Carter's introduction here, which is great. And I had a question earlier, but I'll put.
Oh, not 9 years. It'd be.
I'll ask it.
7 years.
It'd be 7 years because it'd be 5 plus what 2. They were on the run for at least 2 years, somewhere between 7 and 9 years. Yeah. She's an art thief, and owns this like club essentially, and she's mocking Captain America.
Yeah,
she's openly mocking the symbol of Captain America. Like I was really floored by this. I really appreciated how the MCU explained her. I did not expect it. I expected to be like, oh, she's following them. You know, the CIA is kind of keeping on to what they're doing. And no, she's on her own, and I appreciated that. And I got to talk about this dance scene, Mark. This dance scene with Baron Zemo,
right,
is the funniest thing I've seen in a Marvel show, in a Marvel product, dating back to Endgame. Like it's this is just unbelievably funny. I cannot believe they put this in. It's cringy, but it's like the perfect amount of cringe to make me just giggle and not judge it too much.
I didn't see it cringy at all. It's like, this is totally what this guy is. He likes to just socialize and be normal. I didn't even think of it cringy. That's what I thought. It was like, this is like what this, like, if we didn't see him in Civil War, he might look like a good person.
As you're saying, they needed to humanize him after Civil War. That was what this episode needed to do. And it did.
Because he says that when Bucky and him have a conversation when he's still in the jail cell, is, basically he's like, yeah, I'm like sorry for what I did. But, at the time he felt it was necessary, probably because his wife and child and was it his dad or her dad that died? Or got killed in the Sokovia thing. So it's like, I feel like he, at that point, did what he did based off of rage and not calculated decision.
I appreciate how and yeah, I like it. It's a subtle scene. It's stupid. To be honest, it's not really that. It's not really that good. It really is kind of stupid to me. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was funny. Seeing Daniel Bruhl be like a nice, funny guy is just it's an interesting way to. They're swerving that character and they zigged instead of zagging with Sharon Carter, and I appreciated that. Did not expect the direction they went with either of them. To be honest, with WandaVision, there were some beats of like, yep, I expected some of those things.
Sure.
That in terms of character development, and that's not what we saw here. We pan over to the Morgenthau and the Flag Breakers. We found out that Morgenthau wanted to be a teacher. We find out that her mentor, and we don't really know a ton about this mama figure that's been taking care of her and other Flag Breakers, were part of this, system of orphans. I don't really even kind of fully understand where this is at yet. They're stealing from the GRC, which was, and I just want to, there's other stuff we're going to talk about, so I just want to skip kind of ahead with Morgenthau, but she blows up the building. And yeah, we get this humanizing scene with her talking about how
those are the building with people in it too. Like these what are they? The GCR or what was it called again?
GRC. Yep.
GRC.
And I'll be honest with you, Mark. I have not found her character humanizing, and they've tried to do it.
I thought this episode they did a little bit better, like giving her a sympathy moment, and here's what I wish here's what I would have done if I wasn't in this life. I mean I think they did in this episode.
Ironically, this is kind of the same way Zemo was treated in Civil War. Zemo could have used like 2 more scenes in Civil War, just kind of talking about his backstory.
Sure.
And he just didn't have it. He was a great villain, but he just didn't have it. And now that you're watching like this episode, he gets way better in Civil War, right? Like this is going to make this show is going to make Civil War such a better movie. And it's already a really good movie. Mm-hmm. Morgenthau is kind of in that camp for me. I'm really at like I'm at a 3 out of 6 with her, to be honest. I'm really middle of the road with her. She's just like a big bad that it's. I'm not getting much out of that, and I'm like, we're 3 episodes in. You got to give me something here. Come on, we're coming up on episode 4. You got to make me really care about what this character is standing for.
Okay, and then this is my to kind of go on with this group. So 20 samples of the serum was taken, right? Because that's what the guy said.
And 8 of them were taken by this group.
Was it not the group that stole all 20, or
she stole all 20? So there's 12 remaining.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, that's what I'm getting to. It's like, so there's still 20 vials, or 12 vials remaining, because there were 8 of them originally. Because one's dead, right?
Yes.
One got shot down.
One got killed by the CIA. Yeah, I just that's the one thing I will criticize this show on so far. Morgenthau and the Flag Breakers development has not been good. It's been middle of the road at best. And again, I'm trying to, with WandaVision, I learned, don't get my expectations too high.
But at least they're giving you 50-minute episodes.
Yes, these episodes, yeah, you're nailing that. So I'm being cautious about Morgenthau. That's why I'm keeping her at a 3 out of 6 right now. But she's the weakness of the show. It feels like when we cut away from everybody else to her, I'm like, oh, what am I doing? I don't want to see her right now.
Well, okay, I think this is why you feel like this. It's just let's go not Mephisto's advocate, but just going off the weeds a little bit. I think the reason why we're not getting big development or making them seem like the big bad is because I don't think they are going to be.
Maybe.
I think the broker's a big badder person. I think, well, who was the unknown caller that texted her again?
It was the power broker, yes.
Okay, so I think that's who we're going to find out is the actual big bad. Or, like at the end of the episode, the big swerve, maybe Zemo's the power broker and has been pulling the strings in jail.
Maybe.
Ever since. So.
Yeah, and that's the reason he was able to get out so easily. I don't know.
I still feel like the Flag Smashers are actually trying to do the best, because that's what we're definitely getting from them, is like they're trying to give medicine and food to people that need it. And that's why they're breaking in, because I just feel like the GRC might be, maybe they know something about the GRC where they're doing something bad, and that's why they're willing to steal from them and basically Robin Hooding it.
I think the Flag Breakers are giving us what we thought Civil War's ending was going to be. I think they're going to give us a big showdown with a bunch of super soldiers, and we're going to see somebody that we know that doesn't have a super soldier serum get it.
You like Sam?
I don't know.
Do you think Sam gets this?
I think it's John Walker. I think maybe Sharon Carter. Maybe Sharon Carter goes and gets it. Maybe Zemo tries to get it.
If John Walker gets it, then he can just always be Captain America.
So I really just don't think the Flag Breakers right now. I think there's some big plan. I think they're going to try to kill half the population, Mark. That's what I think is going to happen.
I suppose because that's what they want.
That's what they want. And I don't know how they're going to do it. And some people have talked about in little bits, which is our rumor segment on our show. People have talked about that it could be the Terrigen crystals, which would be Inhumans. And that's the way that they talked about Ms. Marvel.
Do you think this series, I mean, just go off that deep end. You think really this Falcon Winter Soldier is going to create the Inhumans? Like, that'd be insane just for a 6-episode series.
I do not, based on how WandaVision was.
And that's the whole thing. But that's like, is that what they did? Like, hey, we want you to overthink everything in WandaVision, but actually it's more straightforward. Where they're like, actually, we want you to think deep in the weeds because that might actually happen. Like, that'd just be insane.
There are some mental gymnastics happening right now by you and I that are a lot of stretches. I'm not saying they can't, and I'm not even saying they won't. I'm just saying I do not think that's the direction they're going. I think if Terrigen crystals were going to be in it, we would have seen Terrigen crystals by now, or we would have had some reference to crystals. But right now it's been all about this freaking super soldier serum. And I don't mind having that as a storyline. I said that last week. It just takes away from me the mystical element of things. And I think they're trying to keep this show grounded, Mark. I think they're trying to keep this show on Earth, very Earth-based, because with WandaVision, it was like reality meta stuff. And then with Loki, it's going to mess with time. So we're going to get those opportunities in other spaces.
I think you're right with this. Is supposed to be more Earth-based and more, based in like Sam and Bucky can fight this.
And I think the vaccine...
That's what we're supposed to get at the end of this. I'm on this subject too. It's just like, we're supposed to get like Bucky and Sam don't get along, blah, blah, blah. And like, especially when the shipping containers get blown up, they don't take direction from each other well. I think that's what we're going to get at the end of this series. is them being buddies and like working well together. Or like you say, maybe they do break off, but still leave on good terms.
We talked about it with Nagel. He developed the new serum after being blipped. We find out he was recruited by Hydra. Then the 5 Siberian soldiers didn't work out. So then he gets blipped. Then he gets snapped. Comes back from the blip. All of that stuff is gone. CIA had done it. That's all gone. So he gets hired by the power broker, which I thought was
no. You're missing that wrong. Hydra falls. He gets recruited by CIA.
Then gets blipped. Then gets snapped. Correct.
And then he's like, hey, they discontinued his work. And he goes to the power broker to have the power broker fund his research.
Correct. Forgive me. Thank you for explaining that correctly.
Yes.
That is important.
Because that is very important, because you got to think Hydra was working on it, kind of got there, and then he kind of figured it. He got to the point where he's able to optimize the serum without anything crazy going on, and then he gets blipped, comes back and wasn't able to utilize it, but was so close to that. And like he says, I was a god, is what he says, because he basically created superhumans. So I don't know, and that's where we go back to these Terrigen crystals. Like, what if you, with the serum that they have, and they find the crystals? I mean, that's where I think that theory can really make sense. Find a way to inhuman everybody.
I just think they wouldn't be stealing refugee things if they were going to do that.
It's hiding in plain sight. You think that they're a terrorist organization that's trying to also act like Robin Hood, but really they're doing something deeper. I mean, that's total Marvel's alley.
I'm not saying they can't. I'm saying there's just not enough evidence right now to say that it's being there. And obviously with Marvel too, whenever Marvel does decide to do Terrigen crystals in the MCU, assuming they do try to do this, they're going to need to make it a big, very focused, very well explained event that people understand.
Sure.
It cannot just be blown over because Ms. Marvel, for example, needs that explanation to be good for her character to pan out.
Yep.
Because she's going to Captain Marvel immediately right after that. And I think with her and Rambeau, the expectation is those two are going to be really, really poignant characters in that show. So I'm with you, Mark. I love the way they explain the serum. Again, we're going back to Isaiah Bradley. A lot of Isaiah Bradley talk. This is this was a bold choice by these showrunners to do it this way. And I absolutely applaud the direction they've gone with Isaiah Bradley. I think this has been great. I am so excited. I totally could see us getting an Isaiah Bradley series down the line, or even a movie. Like, I just totally dig that side character, and I dig the way they're telling it, and I dig the explanation of things, and I dig the way Sam is processing it, and I really appreciated that. To find out that the serum comes from him. I mean, if Steve Rogers had known about this, Mark, I mean, just like, can you just imagine how unglued that man would have come? I mean, like, ridiculous. But Nagel gets killed by Zemo, and then we get this massive fight from Sharon Carter to give these guys time to find this information out.
I'm sorry, but I have to step in on this. I have to soften the weeds. You say if Captain America, or my bad, Steve Rogers, knew about this.
You're doing it on purpose more. Now. Now you're doing this on purpose.
I know I'm doing it on purpose, but I'm doing it on purpose for a reason. He left Bucky alone to go change the timeline, which he said he wasn't going to do, but he does with Sharon, or with Peggy, because that's what the Russos confirmed. Left this man to be basically alone with his depression and PTSD, and that dude should have been there for Bucky to recover from this, and not just leave to go get his. I'm sorry, get that. Never mind. I was going to say get his dick wet, but you can edit that part out, Max. But basically, go live his quote unquote life. And it's just like you could have just chilled down and like been like, no, I don't want to do this anymore, because that's what he did anyways, to go back in time to give that dance. But could have came back and like help Bucky out more. I don't know. That's why I have animosity towards.
You legitimately have animosity towards it.
Yeah, because I just feel like seeing just a few, just 3 episodes of Bucky dealing with this crap that he has to deal with, like internally, it's just like it like hits me hard, and I just feel like he wronged him. And like that scene where they're in the, with him and Bucky and Sam with the therapist, and like that scene just still like eats me away, where he's like, if Cap was wrong about you, then Cap was wrong about me. And it just upsets me. And that's why I'm even harder with Team Iron Man than I ever was because of this series. And I feel like Steve Rogers has wronged Bucky.
It's so interesting you interpret it that way. And I'm not mocking you when I say that. I really do believe this is proving Captain America was right. I believe this is all proving that the government cannot be trusted in any circumstance. The government...
Oh, I agree with that. Yeah, sure.
I'm not saying like you're a pro-government guy or anything. I'm saying like the events of Infinity War and Endgame proved that Captain America was right. And it proved that Captain America would be there. He did tell him in Age of Ultron, we'll fight him together. And Iron Man was like, we'll lose. And he's like, we'll do that together too. Well, the first time around, they weren't all together. The second time they were. And all the things that Cap's talking about, how our hands are the safer hands. Well, Sam Wilson's hands are a much safer set of hands right now than John Walker's hands. And it's nobody disagrees with that, Mark. I'm not saying you disagree with that.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I like to play the bit of, being all in on John Walker, which I will always be. But, if I didn't have to be all in on this,
there are people, though, that are still Team Iron Man on that debate. And that's what makes that movie great, by the way, is there's a legitimate argument there.
There's a reason why Captain America gave the shield to Sam. Because he believes Sam would embody the same ideals Steve Rogers did. Basically being like, hey, I know the government is not trustworthy, but I know you will stand up to them to make them as trustworthy as possible.
This is interesting, Mark. So I'm glad you brought this up because I wanted to talk about this in my show notes towards the end, but I'll talk about it now.
Okay.
This episode is totally 100% solidifying that Sam is going to get the shield. And here's why. We're seeing more interactions with Sam being wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean like Sam's discussion of him trying to connect with Bucky about Marvin Gaye. Bucky is like denying it and being a grumpy old man. That's not Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers is a person that connects with people. When he heard that from Sam, he's like, oh, I'll put it in my book. And like, he wrote it down. Or when they go to Sharon Carter's house and they find out that, hey, Sharon stole all this, and Sam has to Google that because he's such a wholesome guy to think that Sharon Carter wouldn't do that. Or like when he takes the shot as the smiling tiger, like he doesn't know how to be that guy. Or when Sarah calls him, and we didn't talk about that, but like Sarah calls him and exposes them, he can't play the bad guy.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to rob the bank.
Yeah, like he can't, and I think that's a very Steve Rogers-like mentality and portrayal of the character. And I think Sam Rogers is completely wholesome. And I think that is what makes Anthony Mackie's portrayal.
You just call him Sam Rogers?
Sam Wilson, sorry, Freudian slip. Maybe Isaac will clip this later. I love it. I really, really think it's very subtle, but the writing is showing it to me. And I'm not necessarily fully disagreeing with you that Iron Man didn't have a point, Mark. I find it hilarious that today in 2021 we can still have that debate over Civil War, and that it's props to the MCU and their character development and all this way. It's really great. We get the big fight from Sharon Carter. We talked about that. That was Emily Van Camp. Bravo! That was a great fight scene.
I loved how she literally can just like you just see the combat skills that she has because she took on what would have been like her just combat skills are like out of this world. So like going back to like does she get the serum? Because what does she become if she gets the serum? Because she would just be obviously she'd be a super soldier.
I don't know, dude. There's she might get it, but she also has some other agenda, and I don't know what it is because she gets back in the car and she's like, "We've got bigger problems," and I'm like, "What does that mean?" There's another agenda there, and maybe she's the power broker. I know I would lean
or second in command to the power broker.
That is kind of where I'm willing to put a small fortune on that. I wonder personally, like because as we think about it, if power broker lives on Madripoor. How do I say that? I spell it out for myself. Madripoor. Okay. I don't think it's Thunderbolt Ross. I don't think it's him anymore. I at one point I thought it was. I just don't think it is anymore simply from the fact that I don't think he's so political. He's so legalistic. I just don't see him working in those kinds of conditions. Baron von Strucker,
Oof.
I'm sorry, not Strucker. Zemo, excuse me. Baron Zemo, maybe I could see in this way. I could see Emily Van Camp's portrayal of Agent 13 doing it. I still think there could be old villains we don't know about that are doing this that we find out about. Maybe there's somebody from Black Widow we don't know. There's a lot of possibilities. And I just don't think it's Thunderbolt Ross. I think Sharon Carter could be that. And I think this scene was intentionally long, Mark, for that purpose. I think we want to see her as formidable foe, or a formidable presence, at least, in this series.
Yeah, especially if like Sam has to fight her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're right. I think it totally does set up a scene where she has to either fight more people, like she's fighting with them, or she fights against them, or she gets the serum for some reason, and then it's like, okay, she's a super soldier now, has to fight Sam and Bucky.
I'm pumped.
So, I don't know.
I'm pumped. There's I don't know where it's going. I love it. We talked about who the power broker is. Let's talk about the ending here. And
my gosh, were you jazzed about this?
Mark,
didn't you talk about how like, hey, they've been dropping hints of Wakanda and like Black Panther, like every episode we got to get a Black Panther reference.
First of all, I have got to pat our podcast on the back. You, me, Isaac, and whoever else has been on. I think Zane was on episode 1 talk. Is Zane and Jared on episode 1 talk too? Zane, I believe, was like Wakanda showing up. Zane was very adamant about that in that episode. And I think all of us have kind of said, like, they're just talking about it way too much. We got a King T'Chaka reference, for goodness sake, on the front end of this episode. This didn't surprise me from a storytelling perspective. It surprised me from a just fandom perspective. To see the Dora Milaje show up, and that is the same Dora Milaje character that was in Civil War, as well as Black Panther.
Is that the character's name?
I forget her name. I'll have to find it maybe while you're...
like, I have it written down. It's like the character's name is AYO, so isn't it...
Ayo?
I don't know. All right,
Forgive us. We don't know the name. We're struggling with the pronunciation, but this is so fascinating, Mark. This is the ultimate wrinkle in this show. Like, it's the same thing as Invincible, dude. There's so many things going on here.
I don't know if you really could say it's a wrinkle right now, because Bucky says, like, I was wondering when you'd show up. So, like, he knew eventually someone from Wakanda was gonna confront him.
This is like, Zemo. I cannot believe the balls on when a year ago Chadwick Boseman passed away, for him to even
not even a year ago, bro.
Yeah, not even no, for real. You're right. It's
8 months ago or something.
Yeah, you're right. This was like
9 months ago.
Not even 250 days probably. Yeah. And they are moving forward with Wakanda being present in this.
Well, I think I know. I always feel bad saying this, but it's like,
do you think Chadwick Boseman's going to be in this?
No, I don't think Chadwick Boseman. Well, actually, I don't know. They filmed this.
That's an honest question.
He could show up. I don't know.
This was supposed to release last year before WandaVision.
Yeah, I know that. So it's like, this is filmed before COVID. So, like, honestly, maybe he was supposed to show up in this show, but I'm sure at this point they did reshoots to, if that is the case, if there are actual video where Chadwick is playing Black Panther in this, they probably reshot it with, other characters from Wakanda.
Or is this the last time we see him?
Or maybe that's it. I think they would have to do it pretty right. People might be upset if it's just used as an ancillary thing, but...
No. I don't think they would. I'm saying if there's a way to have air quotes closure with it, they're going to use it.
That's what I believe. It's like, you have to have closure with this character. You don't have to recast T'Challa, but I do believe someone else has to take up the mantle of Black Panther.
That will be Shuri. That will be Shuri.
Or N'Baku.
Yeah, I'd be cool with M'Baku too, but I think logistically Shuri makes the most sense.
Either way, I think moving, because if you're going to have a Black Panther 2, you got to have Black Panther in it. Am I wrong?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm wrong, or
no. You're right. No, I'm with you. You and I, since day, and we did we actually have a Chadwick Boseman tribute episode. If you want to check it out, that it's just like super raw, us talking about this. I believe it's like episode 28 was the episode we did, but I thought we really did a good job, because we talked about this in that show, and we're both really aligned. Like, you have to move forward with the property, because Wakanda has
don't have to recast T'Challa. You don't have to do that. But I just feel like the continue the story, you have to. I don't know, just to continue the MCU. A new Black Panther has to be named.
And if there's like if there's a weird way of explaining why he's never around, I think people will be okay with that.
And I agree. It still has to make sense. It just can't be like he's retired and we're going to never see him again. But
yeah, if it's like, hey, he's just focusing on being a king and there's still actions coming from the top, and yeah, I agree with you. I
think that one makes sense. I don't think that would do the character right. I think there's got to be some proper send off where he's like, oh, someone from the multiverse like sucked him up and now he's like off in space and we'll never see him again. Like I'd be fine with that versus like, yeah, he's still king. We never see him, but he still has dictation and sends rules down like that. I think that wouldn't be good. Anyways, way into the weeds on that.
Yeah, we are. But I mean, I trust Feige and all the director, creators, producers. Those guys love that character. They took the care to build that character in universe. They will do fine with it. No, Mark, I was not. It was funny because I saw the little balls and I saw the little symbols. I was like, is that Wakandan? And then I kind of
I saw those and I'm like, oh, Max is going to be so excited when the scene when he's finally this like breadcrumbs.
I was giggling. I was like, this would be a great meme of like you and I would be Bucky and then the Dora Milaje would be Mephisto. And I was wondering when you were going to show up. But no, when I saw the symbols, I was like, is that Wakanda? And then I saw the second one. I was like, no, it's not Wakanda. I'm going crazy. And then she showed up and I went, yo, like I totally just like flipped. I loved it. I thought it was great. And man, I have not wanted to watch an episode of a Marvel show more than after that moment. I was like, oh my gosh, give me the next episode now. Even I would argue more than episode 8 episode 8 when Agatha Harkness tells Wanda she's the Scarlet Witch. I was ready at that moment to watch episode 9 and I'm like, this was a perfect cut off.
Yeah, like I'm more hyped for the next episode because you just cut us off with the needle in our arm. So
And I think a lot of people have frustrations because there's a lot of exposition in this episode, excuse me. But this scene really makes up for a ton of it, in my opinion. And the Carter and Zemo stuff, just like, I love it. I think the Carter and Zemo stuff is great. I care way more about both of those characters. I
wanted more. Like, yeah, like you said, like it gave me insight. Like, hey, I want to know what's going on with Sharon Carter's life these last few years. And yeah, I mean, we talked about earlier on this episode. The more I've thought about it, it's like, yeah, actually, I would love to see, maybe 4 episodes of what Zemo was doing prior to Age of Ultron.
They totally could do it. They totally could make it happen. I'm asking it every week, Mark, but well, actually, hold on real quick for that question. What role is Wakanda playing moving forward, do you think?
I think they're interested on why Bucky has released, Zemo, because Zemo did kill
T'Chaka.
Yes, T'Chaka. Thank you. My remembering names is terrible with me. But I can remember your face, so
yeah,
there you go.
We know what he looks like.
Yeah. I mean, they're very concerned because they don't want this dude to be free, but I feel like something's going to happen where obviously Zemo gets free, right? At the end of the series, like he finds a way to just like, he's not imprisoned anymore or dead. I don't think they're going to kill him off.
No.
But yeah, with Wakanda's involvement is probably just wanting a boots on the ground to just make sure whatever, like maybe that's the next episode is or someone from Wakanda is now buddying up with Sam and Bucky trying to figure this all out just to keep eyes on Zemo the whole time.
I have no clue to spitball. I think they're going to try to chase Zemo, and I think they're going to have to fight off Wakandans while they're fighting off all this other stuff. That's what I think is going to happen.
You really think Bucky and Sam will be fighting Wakandans?
I do. I think we're going to see a Wakanda fight in episode 5.
I don't think so, because I think, think about it. Bucky spent a good amount of time with people of Wakanda, so I just don't foresee him having to fight.
I think they're going to try to take Zemo from him, and he's going to be like, no, and he's going to have to defend him, and that's going to create interesting tension.
Maybe, unless he's like, hey, I want to talk to Shuri, and then that conversation happens.
That'd be great to see one of those guys at the end, wouldn't it? I'd love it. Will Sam take up the shield at the end of the series? I am a hard yes. Put your money on it now. Bye.
I know at the beginning of this series, I don't know if I mentioned on like the episode I was on last week. I know I mentioned to you guys, the Infinity Bros themselves, where I thought initially like this might be a redemption story for Bucky and he becomes Captain America and like Sam, stays Falcon or whatever. But yeah, I'm all in that Sam is going to be Captain America, if not by episode 5, for sure episode 6. I just don't see, like, unless they're playing the second season where it's just like, hey, we're going to leave me in a cliffhanger, and the Captain America is still going to be Captain America, and Sam will figure it out later on. Mark. But yeah, I'm on that boat that Sam will be the next Captain America by the end of the series.
I hope his character dies.
I do not hope. I'm not on that boat. I would love him.
I'm so on the kill him boat. Oh my gosh.
He's done nothing wrong. He hasn't done anything wrong.
He's existed in this universe. That's his problem.
There's a lot of hate.
There is a lot of hate for his character. Yeah, there is.
He's done nothing wrong but, be chosen to be the Captain America.
Who, if any characters we know of, will get the super soldier serum?
Does Sam get it in the comic books? Because that's my only thought.
I do not think he does. I don't know that answer. I don't think Sam's gonna get it. I really don't. I think,
but I'm still with you. I think one person's gonna get it. I think someone's gonna either accidentally or on purpose. Obviously, there's the two options. But
yeah, you're right. I mean, for me, the vote would be Zemo or Carter, because they've put so much care into one of those characters.
Then I feel like if Zemo does it, it's accidental, so he becomes something that he hates.
Oh no! I see Zemo taking it as like fine, this world wants to have Avengers, then I will become the opposite of the Avengers.
But does Zemo in the comic book have superpowers like that?
Yeah, he goes toe to toe with Cap.
Like actual, like having super enhanced abilities?
Just he can fight him.
Well, I mean, Sam could fight Captain America.
Sure, but I mean, like, if I think, because I do think at the end of this the Thunderbolts are coming. Like that to me feels like a pretty strong guess. So I think they need to make Zemo strong.
Either
for the sake of that.
I would say Zemo gets it on accident. That's where I'd put my money on. Where I'd say Sharon Carter might take it on purpose if she's with the broker.
Yeah. Who, if any? I'm sorry. What is Morgenthau's plan? So I'm gonna still stick with 50% of the population dying. There's been rumors, little bits of this being a virus. There's been rumors of it being the Terrigen crystals. I think the virus thing might be a little too much given the circumstances of the real world right now. So I wonder if Marvel went back and kind of said, nah, we're going to do that a different way given everything with COVID. That just feels to me like it would touch a nerve with a lot of people. So I don't think that's the direction they'll go, but I don't think they're going to do the crystals either. So I'm like, I don't know how they do it then. But
maybe she makes the Max, hear me out.
I'm all ears with you.
Here's conspiracy.
Let's head to the
theory
weeds.
Right off the head.
Let's get the weed whacker.
Yeah, no, leave it thick for raptors to crawl through the tall grass. Okay, so she finds someone to modify the serum that's left into a gas that she can, expose to the whole world. She does that. And whatever this mutation, like they thought the mutation would kill half the population. It's kind of going off the Inhumans thought little bits on it, but I'm twisting it. She accidentally exposes this to half to the population, and only a small portion of it, and it becomes a mutant gene. And this is how the mutant gene is exposed to this current MCU.
We're back to what we did in WandaVision, Mark. We're right back to where we were.
Yeah. This is what the people want, and I'm giving what the people want. Crazy Mark theories.
Doggone it if I don't love it. Doggone it if
I just like Mark. They're going to introduce mutants, and if they don't bring them from a different reality and they try to base it now, like to get to the X-Men that how we know it with Xavier and Magneto, you don't have time to build that story. So like that's where like you take those exact characters from the comic books, you would need to take them from a different reality to bring them into the MCU to make it make sense. But if you're just going to bring mutants with abilities, with like abilities that we've seen in the comic books from the X-Men, that's how you do it here. So like people
why do Xavier and Magneto need to exist in the X-Men?
They don't need to. But I'm just saying if you're going to bring those exact characters in, there's got to be a lot of years to give him who they are.
Yeah, I guess that's my question to people like with the X-Men thing, because I really don't know how Feige can do that. I really don't know how they're going to be able to build that school and have it be there in a way that people don't suspect something. And like during Infinity War, why did those Jokers not head out to Wakanda to help? Like, there's a lot of plot holes that the MCU creates within itself. When you
just like Martian Manhunter in the Snyderverse, they didn't feel like they needed to until
that was a flaw of that for sure. No, I'm just saying, like, I don't know if I need it. I don't know if I need Xavier to be this old person. He could be young and new, is what I'm saying.
Well, they could do it like First Class, where it's like, hey, there's these. Yeah, they could do it like that, but also, going back to like stuff that's done in the comic books, and obviously the MCU does it, like pulls pieces and like does stuff. They could do it where they've been hiding in plain sight because of Xavier, and he's decided to come out to society.
So you're thinking it would be more of a homosexual metaphor versus what the metaphor originally was for people of color?
That's not what I was saying.
No. I'm not judging or like I'm not trying to put words in your mouth. I'm saying, like, does Feige try to go that route with it? Because there are some of these shows and movies where he's trying to make a statement on political commentary. Is what I'm saying.
Okay, yeah, going political commentary on it. Yes, I guess I would agree with you. Where it's like, they come out to the world. I guess if you're going to go that route. That's not what I was thinking though, but I guess it does make sense.
That's how I heard that, and that's how I think people who watch these shows would receive it.
But then it gets that the negative connotations from the current people living in that world. It's like, well, now we have to live amongst just regular Joes that have weird mutant abilities.
It honestly does work for the narrative.
And hang on. Now I'm getting even deeper. Now you might need to go get the weed whacker. And so, like, instead of that, long history that you kind of need with Magneto hating humans, you can basically make that a real quick story because all of a sudden there's now a good chunk of the population that hates mutants, and he takes that the bad way, and Xavier takes it the good way, if you catch my drift.
Yeah. And obviously they're in the comics, they have been representations of MLK Jr. and Malcolm X. I'm not saying that they're going to do like the coming out way. I'm saying that just seems like a logical parallel to go given the political tension and temperature of the world right now. But we'll leave it at that. Don't want to get too political today. Not saying we're for or against it. We're just saying that's what could come about it. That's all I'm trying to say. Any other thoughts about this episode before we go to the top 5? We'll probably have some things there too, but just double checking.
It made me think, like, with the scientist who's creating the serum, with that explosion with all the chemicals and gases, if he becomes something. That's what I thought. It's like, okay, he was still in there.
He's dead. Zemo shot him in the head.
Yeah, sure, but like, you're telling me that serum that he's been working on doesn't get into his blood and does
you're right.
something?
Anything could be happening. You're right. I don't see it.
It's a comic book world, Max.
He was
Anything
a
is possible.
character. He's not coming back.
Yeah, until Wanda brings him back.
No, Wanda will bring back his X-Men version, but then it'll be some joke based on
his name was actually Baron McCockner.
It's still like Ralph Boner still to this day is the worst thing that the MCU. It's the worst thing the MCU's ever
Loved
done.
it
By a mile.
Worst.
It's horrible.
I don't know. They've done Captain Marvel, so
now you're just trying to get me going, and I'm not gonna go for it. Let's head to the top 5. We're going in 3, 2. You're entering the top 5 on the Infinity Bros podcast. Starting now. Every week we like to close out our show with a water cooler discussion on something that's happened in the previous days or weeks. This week we are closing out with our top 5 moments from Falcon and the Winter Soldier episode 3. Mark, what is your number 5?
My number 5 was Captain America deciding to go rogue. To bet on the best hand.
It's John Walker. It's not Captain America.
So my number 5 again is the Captain America, aka Johnny Walker, deciding to go rogue and betting on the best hand, knowing that the best hand is Bucky and Sam.
My number 5 is the Madripoor appearance. This is great because it's just we're slowly getting X-Men. And even having Selby there, who's an X-Men character, was really cool. And other references. There was just a lot of X-Men references in this, and I really enjoyed that. I'm looking forward to how I'm with you, Mark. I'm fascinated to see how they do it because they are behind the 8 ball on that subject, and I don't know how they're going to do it. So, I'll go to number 4. My number 4 is Sharon Carter kicking ass. I think this is great. She got a long fight. Nobody else really did. And I respect and love it. And I think it's great. And I think it was cool to see her keeping the bad guys away from Sam and Bucky. I think it was great. I loved it. I think Emily Van Camp is criminally underutilized in this whole MCU experiment. And I'm glad that she's back in this universe. And I really appreciated the way they explained her story.
Sure. Like just being brought to light that Zemo is a baron and, came from royalty and still has money, connections, and just access to a jet and a butler. I think that just blew my mind.
The Bruce Wayne
basically
of the MCU.
The evil Bruce Wayne, or good Bruce Wayne, depending on your
Yeah, you're so different.
Your view of him.
You think John Walker is Captain America. You're so different.
John Walker is Captain America. Like I don't know how you can't understand that.
He's not Captain America.
What do they call him?
Hashtag not my Captain America.
Well, he is, just like any president in the United States. When you're a U.S. citizen, is your president, Max. So buckle up.
Get Mark going. Get Mark going.
All right. So my number 3 is at the end of the scene when they go track down who's making the serum, and Zemo gets that car and they get in with Bucky in the front and Sam in the back, and Sam's like, "You're not gonna move your seat up, are you?" And then Bucky's like, "Nope." Love that callback from Civil War.
I didn't think that scene in Civil War was like that funny. Like everybody talks about that scene like it's this great scene, and I'm like, it's a good scene, but it's not like, I don't know. That scene doesn't hit as big for me as other people, but is what it is. Number 3 for me is Zemo's Breakout. I loved how I agree with you. You nailed it. You totally stole the way I was going to say it. They Ant-Manned it. They quickly explained how he did it. They made it funny. They made it interesting.
Didn't have to spend a ton of time on it.
Nope, not a ton of time or a lot of the budget to make it happen either, and I appreciated that. And I was with you. I thought this was going to be half the episode was breaking them out, and I was like, oh, here we go. We got to trudge through this. So props to the writers for making that call. And number 2 for me is Zemo dancing in the club. That's great. It's one of the best parts of this whole series so far. So goofy, 1 second at most. It's hilarious. And maybe not just dancing. Zemo's character in this episode is just so
and you think about
needed.
he doesn't dance that long. It's like a scene or like a clip, basically.
It is, but it's like it had that big of an impact for me to go like, this is number 2 on my list. Like, it's so funny. And I just appreciate, I'm with you, Mark, how finding out he's a Baron, and like I loved it. Give me as much Daniel Bruhl as Baron Zemo.
My number 2 I think was your number 4, with just seeing Sharon Carter, where it's just like, yeah, I mean, the more you think about it, it's like, there's got to be closer to the end of the series where there's another fight, so we have to get validation that she can take on a bunch of people, and whether that might be more enemies in her eyes or fighting Bucky and Sam. So
yeah, I agree. I think it's setting the table for her to be a formidable foe for whoever she fights.
Yep,
agreed.
And then my number 1,
I think we might have the same number 1, Mark.
Yeah, it's the ending, the Bucky and Ayo scene.
It's great.
Io, or
the Wakandan scene. I think this is like peak MCU right here. This is what these shows, and I am going to criticize WandaVision again. I'm sorry. It's another episode where I'm criticizing WandaVision. This is how you do the connecting, guys. This is how the MCU needs to connect more often. There were characters that connected from other universes, which I appreciated, but there weren't moments that connected. And this was a great moment. It wasn't just a character from another franchise, air quotes. It was a character and basically their whole universe going, we want into this now. And I really appreciated this. They're finally paying off that Bucky being in Wakanda storyline. Like, it was kind of thrown away in Infinity War. It's like, oh, the White Wolf's awake. Here's your arm.
Yep.
Go fight. And then he's gone for Endgame, obviously. And so I love it. I'm excited to see his relationship with these characters. I'm really looking forward to this. I cannot wait.
I agree.
They've nailed the beats of this show so far, too. This was like absolute perfect timing of this moment to be revealed.
And you're right. I loved WandaVision. But kind of like with this scene and what you kind of said made me just think of this, where, yeah, of course, someone from Wakanda is going to show up and be like, hey, you broke out Zemo? Excuse me? Where it's like WandaVision, we should have gotten at least a sorcerer showing up, if not Doctor Strange.
I agree.
So they better explain that pretty good in, Multiverse of Madness or in some other series where it's just like, well, in Ragnarok, he shows up when Loki and Thor come to, to Earth. So like, why is he not heading down to what the hell is going on in Westview? Which it would probably be a bigger, like, a bigger marker. Be like, hey, what the heck's going on? If
he is elbows deep in Multiverse of Madness right now, I hold to that. I hold that movie already started. By the time
there still should have been a sorcerer from that organization.
Yeah, from
to show up. Give me one.
I think
just have him show up.
I can understand why Doctor Strange didn't show up. I agree with you. There would have been no logical explanation for why Wakanda didn't show up other than Chadwick Boseman died. Right? Like. And also, too, Mark, this shows that Kevin Feige and MCU weren't scared of that.
Yep.
Like, we were wondering, how are they going to respond to this? And this was just encouraging. Coogler, I would assume Coogler had to sign off on some of this. Like, I just think this is really exciting. This is all really, really exciting. The use of music is great. All of it. This is what the MCU should be.
That should have been my number one, really. Is the music used where it's like, oh, here's little Civil War music. Here's Zemo soldier music. Yeah, here's Zemo's music. You know what this is from.
Yeah,
it was great stuff.
They've done that. They've been remarkable at that in this series. I agree. I already, Mark, are you at the point where you could say you like this show better than WandaVision? Because you have really great reviews of that show. You weren't as disappointed at the end as I did.
Oh, no.
I was disappointed. I already pretty much feel confident in saying this is going to be better to me than I'm having way more fun in this.
I believe the end of this series will be more well respected by the masses because there hasn't been as big of a hype train and buildup as WandaVision was because of how slow paced WandaVision was.
I agree. I think the problem for me was I got on the hype train and I was just geeking and all I thought of was that. And I'm like, nah, I need to slow down, let it come to me. And that's really helped this show.
And that's what some of the Infinity Bros, including myself, said, where it's like I had to watch it the second time. Because the first time, I was a little disappointed, but that was my fault. I was disappointed because in my mind, I expected more because of the hype train I got from social media and TikTok that Mephisto should have shown up with Nightmare and 3 of the Fantastic Four people should have been there. And Doctor Strange should have showed up. And then I should have gotten, Metallica should have been there. And then, half of the X-Men should have showed up. Like, that's what I expected.
Yeah, so for me, I'm looking at this through the lens of like, hey, when's Coldplay showing up?
Sure.
And no, I'm with you. I think and this is where I will push back on that narrative. I understand what you're saying, and I don't disagree that I was hyped. And I don't even disagree that I set my expectations high.
You're feeling that way is totally valid.
I know you do.
I understand that.
I think we actually understand where each other comes from on that.
Yeah.
I just cannot stand that from episode 1, it was a boner joke. Like that just like that really does like, and then the whole, my least favorite part of it, and 2020 has really not helped WandaVision either.
Sure.
The foresight part, not the year. Forgive me. Like looking back on this show and going and listening to those clowns, and I do call those showrunners clowns for saying this, for saying they had no clue who Mephisto was. I'm like, whoa, hold on. You read those comics. I know you read them because you're pulling from those comics.
Do you think they are saying that just to troll you, Max, and not actually?
Yes, I do. I 100% think they do. And unless it pans out in Multiverse of Madness and we find out that was just them saying he's going to be in Multiverse of Madness and Ralph Boner was just a joke, ha 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 ha. We didn't have enough time to explain who he was.
Oh, well, and we still don't know who the witness protection person was.
So
that's my theory, where that's an actual multiverse Quicksilver, and his name is just, that they've given him is. And like I said in that episode, you got to give it time. It's the first chapter in Phase 4.
Agreed. And what's great about this, going back to Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's solid. Everything has been solid so far. Nothing, like the first 2 episodes, did I give them 6s? No, but 5 is a great grade from my perspective. And you're doing some really, really fun things in those episodes. And this episode, I feel like we're cranking it up. I like that. I feel like we're going directions like with Wakanda. I like that Sharon Carter and Zemo are in the picture now. I've been itching to see those guys. I like what I got from those storytelling. Yes, was there a lot of exposition and not a ton of Bucky and Sam together? Sure, but I also think this is not the end of those two being together this series. No. There's too much money to and with Sam in that shield, that'll be a fun movie to see him flying around with that shield. I really cannot wait for that. And I think there's a lot of stuff to do. So, Mark, thank you for coming on this episode, man. It was fun to chat with you and have another just pontification session.
I'm glad to be here. And before we leave, we're going to do a giveaway. We're not giving away a Funko Pop this time. And this is just for how you're going to enter into this giveaway. It will be a comic book, a West Coast Adventures comic book that I'm going to give away. We want you to interact with, this post that we'll have for this episode. And we want you or let us know who you think the broker is. And you'll be entered into a giveaway. And, whenever this gets released, we'll do 2 weeks from that date, and we'll announce the winner.
We'll announce winner. Make sure you also don't forget, post a review for us on iTunes or Podchaser. Send us a screenshot, and you will be entered to win an Infinity Gauntlet signed by the Infinity Bros, and you'll have a 1% chance to win that. So you don't. Mark, great episode. Thank you so much again for coming on. I already said that, but I'm saying it again. Thank you. You were great. I'm so geeked to find out next week how this Wakanda thing's going. It's gonna be great. Next week's gonna be a great episode too. You want to check it out. We're gonna have J-Buck from J-Buck Studios back for the first time. J-Buck got 100,000 fans on TikTok since we saw him last March.
I know, it's crazy. I've seen it's someone's getting there when you're, especially like my beautiful wife Kelly had been like, hey, have you seen this J-Buck guy? And like on Instagram, like she'll send, or not on TikTok, and like she sent me some of his stuff, and it's like, he's been on our podcast before. And they're like, with some mustache, like we're elite.
Yeah, do you feel like a big man when you say that?
Yeah, it's like, we've interacted with him before.
I mean, we're friends. We're buddies. Yeah, J-Buck's going to be on next week. Dude is hilarious. If you have TikTok, go follow him. He's dynamite.
Yep.
We're going to talk about episode 4 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I'm sure we'll get into some fun with some other stuff too as well. So, as always, we love you guys 3000. We will talk to you guys later, and we'll see you. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Infinity Bros podcast. You can find the Infinity Bros on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at The Infinity Bros. Feel free to send listener feedback via email at infinitybrospodcast@gmail.com.